What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point. We're up over 50, 60 different episodes. We've had artists from rap, pop, hip hop, R&B, country, just from all over the place too, whether it's here in the United States or up in Canada, the UK, Australia. We've just been thankful to have so many artists on the show to talk about their story through music. And I'm definitely excited for the one today because this kid's young and he's up and coming, and I think he's going to be big time when it comes to it. Caden Glover, almost screwed that up. Told him I was going to screw it up at some point during the interview. But Caden, how are you today, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
And not too bad. That's like I always say to people before the interview, and I said it to you: is doesn't matter if your name's John Smith or Jane Doe. I'm still gonna find a way to screw it up at some point.
Oh yeah, I get it all the time.
Yeah. No, and like just sitting there, I was like, and I said to you, it was a mental thing. And I sat there and said, I'm definitely going to screw it up. And that's why I always ask. But there we go. I screwed it up live on air today, but it's okay. We're all good. Um, I'm excited to have you on, man. And like I said, I always like to take a second before we start and just thank everyone that takes time out of their day because I mean, with work, school, and music. I know people can be busy and have crazy schedules like myself. I know I'm just going crazy with my music and my work. So it's always just great to take time and sit here and talk about your story through music. So thank you for taking the time for that.
Oh yeah, man. I really appreciate you having me.
No, of course, of course. So kind of hopping right into the first question, as everyone knows, I start with the basic of basics, and it's the setup for this whole interview. It talks about how you really started in the music business. Is where did singing and where did playing kind of all start for you?
Yeah, well, really, it all started back when I was about 13 or so. I uh, I come from Southern West Virginia, so there's a lot of folk and a lot of country, bluegrass mixture around my area. So I mean, you go to a festival somewhere, that's what's going to be playing.
Yeah.
And really, I just never really had any music experience. None of my family plays any music. I just, enjoy listening.
Mhm.
Then, one day I was just like, well, I want to learn some music.
Yeah.
So we went and I bought a banjo, and that's really where it all started.
Mhm.
From there, I learned some guitar, and then I, got a little bit better on both. And then I eventually merged into the whole singing aspect of things. But yeah, it really just started all around the banjo and the rich folk around where I grew up.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, because sometimes with people's stories, I know like myself is I only started all this in 2018, so that was about 5 years ago, give or take. And some people come singing out of the womb. They start humming nursery rhymes and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's always cool to just really hear how people start. And you're still young. You're only you're 17 going on 18, still in high school, and your vocals, man. I mean, it's crazy. I can't wait for people to hear the song at the end of this and they'll understand what I'm talking about. But just your vocals at such an early age right now and with no one else in your family kind of not singing, like it's crazy that you have such a talent for it.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Yeah, like I said, everybody in my family's more of just kind of the blue collar West Virginian type. So for me to be more on the music side of things, it's really totally different for the area that I'm in.
No, exactly. And it's going to be kind of leading into the next question here is obviously like where a lot of the music that is down there is like that folk country, that bluesy kind of stuff. And I know for me a lot of people know this is I'm a country boy at heart, up in Boston, Massachusetts, but always playing in my household and stuff was all kinds of country music, whether it was that like 90s, early 2000s, or some of the modern country today. And just country's always been a huge influence for me. And that's how I really started with the songwriting process. And that's how I started with the producing aspect of things is just getting into that country music, the melodies and the storytelling aspect. And I could sit here for hours talking about inspirations. And that's kind of what this next question is who are some of your inspirations that you kind of really look up to in the music business? And just even when it comes to listening to some music, what are a couple songs or a couple artists that you're listening to currently?
Well, really a big inspiration in the beginning of my whole music industry type deal
Mhm.
is a lot of Doc Watson, Earl Scruggs, Lester Flats type of deal. A lot of the big bluegrass guys, Bill
Yep.
Monroe and whatnot. And then really once I started merging out of that, I kind of got more into the country side of things. And obviously you got like Hank Williams, and then you get into Hank Williams Jr. and stuff like that. But then I really got into Waylon Jennings and that aspect of music and country music and whatnot.
Mhm.
But really, I got into, I guess, what really merged me into what I am now is a lot of Southern rock, a lot of Southern rock, like Leonard Skinner and Allman Brothers. And, that's really, the other ones helped, but that's really what's, molded the type of music I play and the type of music I enjoy,
Yeah.
really.
No, and that's awesome because obviously at the end of this interview we're gonna hear the song that you have out, and you can just hear it in your vocals that like a lot of that mix of what you just said really blends into your vocals. And I mean, I'll be honest, is like I don't bash a lot of artists because everyone's great, and don't get me wrong about this, but there's no one like you out there right now. And I say this to people that I really mean this about is I could put you in a playlist with hundreds of different country artists and southern rock artists and stuff, but at the end of the day, when your song comes on, like if I didn't know it, I would still know that that's you and that's who you are because you can just hear that blend, and just your vocals, man, are just killer.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
No, of course. And obviously, kind of talking about the song that I mentioned that you have out, and just songwriting in general is always just a great thing to kind of hear how an artist goes through the creative process. And I always have to quote him before I technically ask the question because I told him I would do it until I stopped doing these interviews because it's a great quote that leads into this great question. Is the creative process is like a puzzle, whether you have 500 or 1,000 pieces, and you have it all kind of scrambled up, and you're trying to figure out where these pieces all fit and how they fit together. And eventually you start working on the border, you start putting the middle together, you put these pieces together, and by the end you have this whole thing, you have this whole song, you have this whole masterpiece that you can cherish and that you can share with other people. So it's always a great quote by Garrett. He was such a great time having him on the show and everything. But what is your creative process like? Because I've asked people so many times and no one ever gives me a right answer. So it's just always unique and cool to hear. What's the creative process like for you?
Really, I mean, I listen to so much music, so I don't like to be like anybody else. I know that's kind of sounds cliche, but
Yeah.
really in my head when I'm, writing or playing or whatever, I just try to stray away from anything anybody's ever done, whether that be chord progression or anything. I just like to be totally different, maybe a mix of, a little bit of southern rock, bluesy style thing with mix of like, folk or something. I just like to be more different.
Yeah.
So I take in what I can from everybody else
Mhm.
and I kind of just put it out my own way, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. And listening to your song, Appalachian Skyline, is just the storytelling aspect you have behind songwriting is just, it's crazy. I mean, I was just listening to that song and the storytelling aspect is really what connects with me because that's how I started. And I wrote a song about my grandfather passing in 2018. And the storytelling aspect that you can really just sit there and picture that whole song from start to finish. And I mean, just your songwriting is just through the roof. And it's going to kind of lead into the next question. Um, is it's always the hardest question on the show. And I kind of just want to jump right into it because you started touching up on it a little bit. Is with all these other artists out there, there's hundreds and hundreds of artists trying to promote their music. Um, and at the end of the day, just what makes you you compared to all these other artists out there?
Oh, well, I mean, I really, you've got like Tyler Childers and Culture Wall and, more upcoming folk slash country, bluegrassy style people.
Yeah.
And I really like to be more or less not put into one genre. I like to have a bluesy style whatever you want to call it. It's just I don't like to sound like anybody else. And I've heard people say, "Oh, well, you sound like Tyler Childers, or you've got a music style like Coulter Wall or something like that."
Yeah.
But really, I like to try to be my own sound, and I know everybody says that, but when it comes down to it, I've got like banjo and I got guitar and whatnot. But then I feel like my vocal style stuff is just kind of different from that, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. That makes total sense. And like I said earlier in the interview, there is no one that sounds like you. Like, I mean, I don't even know, like, and I hate comparing people to other people, but like, I think if I sat here for a good 5 minutes, I don't think there's anyone I could compare you to. Honestly, it's just that's who you are, and I can definitely tell that you're really gonna shape into an artist. And I don't even understand how you're not on tour already with all your vocals talent.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
No, of course. So kind of getting into the last question, and it's always one of my favorites too, because I always like looking towards the future and hearing some news about what's going to be coming soon. So the kind of question is what are your goals as an artist? Where do you want to go with your music? What do you want people to kind of take away from it? And then just short term and long term, what can we expect down the road from you?
Well, everybody wants to be, the big star or whatever, but really, when I graduate high school here coming up in this May, I'm moving to Nashville at the end of June. And I mean, it's just about every weekend I'm playing some local bar, some restaurant down the road, something, along those lines. But really, in the long run, I just want to play my music. I mean, money aside and all that, the only thing I ever want to do is play my music, whether I be, working or at school or whatever it is. I come home and the first thing I'm heading towards is my music. So that's all it's ever been for me. That's all it really ever will be.
Yeah.
You know, is just the music. I just enjoy playing and I enjoy singing and I enjoy that other people enjoy what I put out.
And I mean, I've asked this question numerous times. I ask all these questions numerous times to every artist that I have on the show. And honestly, that's one of the better answers that I've had so far on this, because it's always a fun word that I love using that I don't use a lot, because not a lot of people really understand is instant identity. You know exactly what you want to do. You just want to play your music and you want people to hear it. And at the end of the day, that's the kind of artist that I connect with, because if you can sit there and play your music and have people enjoy it or take the constructive criticism about what's wrong with it, and just interacting with those fans, interacting with people and sharing the stories that you're writing and stuff like that. So it's just that's a spot on answer, and just props to you. And obviously, once you move down to Nashville, I'll definitely be down there to check out a couple of shows here and there. And I just can't wait for more music from you, dude.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Like I said, people just they kind of look past, all the people playing music, they kind of look past, the main purpose of it. You're playing the music. Obviously, the money's great and whatever, but
Right.
really, it's all just been about the music. So
No, exactly. And that's what I connect with, because I tell people all the time is sometimes once you start signing those record deals, and sometimes once you start blowing up more than you ever thought you'd blow up, sometimes that fame just gets to people's heads and they don't lose connection with the crowd. But just compared to an artist like yourself and compare it to all these big name artists up there. I mean, like Morgan Wall and Luke Gomes and stuff like that. Sometimes the interaction part is it's different. So that's why I always love having up and coming artists on here, because who knows, maybe a couple of years from now you'll be headlining worldwide tours and I'll be like, hey, I interviewed this kid.
yeah,
Like that's the part that gets me, is just those up and coming artists. So I just love stuff like this, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah. So obviously that's all the questions I have for today, and it's getting to the good part of the interview, which is hearing a song by you. I already know I'm gonna get chills, so there's no need for a chill factor on this one. I always tell artists is if you're playing live, I need to get the chills or else this interview is not gonna air. Um, but I already know I'm gonna get the chills even though you haven't even started playing yet. But I'm going to kind of put myself on mute and I'm going to let you kind of take the floor. If you want to just let us know a little bit about the song that you're going to be playing, and the floor is yours, man, to play the song.
All right, man. Thanks. Basically, this is Appalachian Skyline by Caden Glover. It's out everywhere. It's about the Appalachian skyline. I mean, if you're from the Appalachian Hills or West Virginia style, area, this is definitely the song for you. So I'd appreciate it if y'all check it out everywhere you listen to music. Have you ever seen them Appalachian skylines? When the sunset paints a picture for all to see. I come from a small town in West Virginia, so really that ain't nothing new to me. Well, I once met a woman beneath the Appalachian moonlight. Her beauty made me plead and beg for air. Hazel eyes like a walnut in early fall time. Though the night was warm, I still had chills to bear. I'll tell you, brother, I ain't a rich man. Just need my coffee and those damn cigarettes. Live a simple life, you wanna have no worries. Listen to the wind, you wanna live half-bound. I grew up neath the Appalachian skyline, reaching to every tree has a story to tell. When I die, don't put me in no graveyard. I want a perfect view of them Appalachian hills. Well, some folks run to the city in the spotlight. Some folks run to the plateaus of the plains. I myself will stick around here in this holler. It's a holler, Lord, it's where I was born and raised. There you go.
Nah, that's awesome, man. And I was just getting chills from the whole performance. I mean, just like I said, your vocals, man, are just killer. And I can't wait for more stuff from you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
No, of course. So obviously kind of just before we go, just social media wise, where can people kind of find you on social medias?
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, anything out there. It's all Caden Glover, CADENGLOVER, on just about everything. So you look that up and you'll find me.
Nah, perfect. I mean, people definitely go check him out, because once this kid moves to Nashville, what'd you say, the end of June, right?
Yeah, June
I mean,
27th.
June 27th, this kid, just give him a couple weeks down there and he's gonna be one of the biggest stars you've ever heard of. I can already tell you that right now.
Thanks, man.
No, of course. So that kind of concludes another episode of the Spotlight series. Always have a blast, like I said, talking about people's story through music, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So, you all know the drill is 1 p.m. Eastern. Every Sunday is going to be a new artist. You never know who it's going to be when you wake up on that Sunday morning or you wake up on that Monday and see who I'm promoting. So y'all stay tuned and I'll see y'all next week.